Oh my goodness. WandaVision. Hey guys, it is Mrs. D, and I am scrounging to get time to make these videos because it turned into a hectic week after a hectic weekend. And then out of nowhere, I am driving to work, minding my own business, and one of my former students, shout out Joe Schwartz, made sure that I got the link to the WandaVision video pretty much as soon as it dropped, to which I was like, I have no time to offer this, but am I going to watch it, like, sitting at a red light? Yes. It took like 6 red lights to have enough time to watch the whole video. I was extremely upset because, one, I find the song that they used incredibly creepy. I don't know why. There's some deep-seated childhood issue with it. I don't know where it came from. Was it from Are You Afraid of the Dark? Was it from a Stephen King movie, like one of those old 90s made-for-TV movies? One of those is true. But the song terrifies me. The fact that WandaVision dropped a long-form trailer prior to Falcon and the Winter Soldier does 2 things for me. One, gives me hope. It gives me hope because allegedly WandaVision was always the furthest along on filming. Like, it was always apparently in editing during coronavirus, but they just weren't trying to skip too far ahead of their release schedule. WandaVision's slated for later release. It's going to be the movie that directly influences / introduces, potentially even causes Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I guess, spoiler warning, that was just on the announcement chart. I don't really think that knowing that one directly influences or causes the other should be considered a spoiler. But from this point on, if you want nothing further, you best leave. I have watched it like 6 times. I still don't know that I caught everything. I've been trying to scrounge for different breakdowns to see if my breakdowns match other people's, and so far, decently good on that. It's clear to me that we're actually accessing Wanda's mutant powers. Now, this is cool for a litany of reasons. Marvel, for the longest time, did not own Fox properties, which meant that all of the things that were X-Men but were also Avengers had a weird cross-section of ownership. So Marvel was permitted, for example, relevant example, they were allowed to use Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, but they were not allowed to use Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver. Wanda and Pietro Maximoff could have access to certain powers. They were not allowed to use the word mutant. It was considered part of the X-Men universe. They were also not allowed to use Magneto, and they were not allowed to do things specific to the mutant teams, X-Force, X-Men, stuff like that. So the weird thing is you can use Wanda and Pietro, but you can't say Scarlet Witch. You can't say Quicksilver. You can't say mutant. That's why, weirdly, in Age of Ultron, the phrase was miracles. We are entering the age of miracles. However, there have been some interesting little sprinkled bits, and I posted a video to the Lunchtime with Mrs. D Google Classroom that linked to a theory that Magneto has been retconned already into the MCU, that they left some spots open. I think understandably. There are 2 times that it is said in the experimentations, the Strucker experimentations that created Wanda and Pietro, they said no one else survived. And then Strucker at one point offers, they said, well, there were 2 survivors. Someone just says there were 2 survivors, and Strucker offers the twins. That makes sense because there's always 2 twins, but they didn't specify that those 2 survivors were in any way related. He just guessed the twins. Then later, when they meet Ultron, and the video pointed this out, which is something I had not considered, that Ultron, being like Jarvis, has access to the entire internet database, and has access to all the Hydra files, and has access to all the SHIELD files. Like, Ultron has access to every bit of information in the world. While he is meeting Pietro and Wanda, and they're telling him their backstory, you can imagine that he's, like, doing deep research on them. And at some point, he kind of goes, oh, that's why. It could be, oh, that's why your father is Magneto, and therefore you are carriers of the X gene, and the stone activated it. So if you don't know much about mutants, short form, mutants come in categories. They come in sort of weight class categories, power class categories. You have your basic, like, party trick mutants. They don't, do much. They don't affect much. They have small, usually very personal skill sets that they're cute and all, but it's not going to, like, hurt anyone or help anyone or do much. Then you have mutants who are more powerful, but maybe there's a scope to their power, and that scope eventually hits a wall, hits a limit. A mutant like Iceman or Pyro, they're pretty powerful. They're like a beta class mutant, but you're going to hit a limit with them eventually. Even a mutant like Wolverine. Wolverine has a very impressive power skill set, right? He has almost unlimited regeneration. And then the adamantium skeleton's its own fun thing. He has the claws. But like, that's cool for him. It doesn't necessarily impact the rest of the world. He's a powerful beta mutant, but he's beta. You have, I guess you could also call him an alpha level mutant because of the degree of power he has. The regeneration is so intense that his regeneration capabilities make him effectively immortal. Deadpool, also similarly, he's so regenerative as to be almost immortal. So, like, they're extremely powerful. But, like, can Deadpool push that on other people? No. Can Wolverine push that on other people? No. Omega-class mutants are world-ending mutants. Of the few that we know about, I mean, we know about many, but, like, Charles Xavier could be an Omega-class mutant, the world's most powerful brain. They did a great job with this in the Logan movie, where they basically were like, if you give the world's most powerful brain, which is like a nuclear bomb of a brain, and you give it like Alzheimer's, what are you doing? They hint at the fact that he had some sort of mental issue, seizure, episode, and effectively killed all of the mutants. Because he could, because Charles Xavier. Magneto, in many ways, is an Omega-class mutant because it's been shown that his ability to manipulate metal is almost limitless, including metals that are deep in the earth. You have Storm. Storm can decide that she wants to, like, rip most of the world in half with weather. You obviously have Jean Grey and Phoenix. And then you have Wanda. Wanda Maximoff Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful mutants alive. In Endgame, they finally did a good job with her powers. Now, I'm going to give credit where credit is due and say that it made more sense because she wasn't born a mutant, because copyright. She wasn't born a mutant. The gene, if they're even going to retcon it and say that she's got the gene, they activated it. And you would grow into using those powers. So I like that she grew into a more powerful thing. But as my husband and I were rewatching Endgame, because of course we were, he said, I'm happy they finally made her what she is, which is the most powerful one on that field. When she faces off against Thanos and she's like, you took everything from me. And he's like, I don't even know you. And she's like, you're gonna. And she has that moment. You realize that she is more powerful than Thanos when she is on that field. She is even more powerful than Captain Marvel. Like in a face-off between Captain Marvel and Wanda, Wanda's gonna win. In the comics, there is a plot line called the House of M plotline. Now, I'm not the smartest person in the world, and I wasn't the first person to say this, but in the Monmouth Regional Comic-Con of 2 years past, I did say that I thought House of M was a potential venue for them bringing in mutants, like a reverse House of M. As opposed to Wanda eliminating all mutants, she would create all mutants. It feels like we're doing this in the WandaVision TV series. Why? First question is, how is Vision alive? He died in Infinity War, and he's real dead. But universes, multiverses, pocket universes. So we know it to be true that more than one universe, more than one timeline exist. There is a huge conundrum with the Steve Rogers ending of Endgame. I like it poetically. It's fine. But practically, Steve going back in time and deciding to retire to the 40s with Peggy, or not with Peggy, I guess. They never really said it. We just kind of heavily imply it. But Steve going back in time creates a problem unless he is able to, by merely existing there, not be any different from the previous plotline. Then he has created a splinter universe, which is the problem that the Ancient One goes over with Hulk in Infinity War. The issue here is, where are the different Avengers in those plot lines? Do they exist? Did Tony Stark die across every universe? Did Steve Rogers? Probably not. But are they the same person? Could they be recasted? Potentially. Now, Wanda can create reality or uncreate it. In the House of M plotline, she goes a little crazy, realizing that she has so manipulated her own reality that she actually invented children and was so in love with them and was so invested in being their mother that when she finds out they're not real, she just destroys all mutants. This eventually gets undone because comic books, you can undo anything. But the problem with Wanda is that she is that powerful. So she has in some way found a way to resurrect Vision. Not resurrect, but probably recreate an almost exact copy of Vision. It is likely this is in a different universe than the one that we inhabit in the world of the MCU. It is likely to be a parallel or a splinter universe. But however weird it feels, we are now able to cross the boundary, the time-space boundary between them because of Wanda's power. I like that they're basing it in TV shows because you can imagine, like, post-Endgame Scarlet Witch alone in her apartment, eating a crap ton of Haagen-Dazs, watching old TV shows and crying about the loss of Vision and just being alone and being upset. Like, the whole world is moving on and she's one of the people that lost the most and she doesn't get to get it back and she's just depressed and kind of staring at the TV, going slowly crazy until she accidentally creates a new universe. However, there's a new character in the TV series. We know that Kathryn Hahn is playing someone, and in the show she is wearing a Halloween witch hat with like a witch wig. At least I hope it's a wig. She's also in the different timelines with Scarlet Witch and Vision. The issue is, who is she? They have just said that the actress is in the MCU. They have not released a character name. The internet has suggested, and I think it is quite interesting and potentially quite likely, that she's Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness would tie in not just to Scarlet Witch and Vision because she mentors Scarlet Witch in how to control her reality warping powers, but she is also the caretaker of Franklin Richards. Reed Richards and Sue Storm's son. Fantastic Four. We need Fantastic Four introduced. I said this to my former student who was talking with me about Marvel, all things Marvel. A few years ago, when Kevin Feige announced what the new MCU Phase 4 and 5 looked like, he left out a couple of big ones, like whether or not Deadpool was coming and where the X-Men were and what's happening with Fantastic Four. Like, he just didn't touch them. They were two of the biggest buy-ins he ever had, X-Men and Fantastic Four, and he didn't even mention them. This is why I think he didn't mention them. Kevin Feige is so good at what he does, and he is so interested in rubbing Fox's noses and how bad they are at making X-Men movies, that he is literally going to introduce all of X-Men and Fantastic Four without ever once putting them in a title movie. He is not going to give them a title. He is going to introduce them in a Disney Plus series. We thought Wolverine was coming to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now we're probably getting all mutants, retconned in by Wanda accidentally making a different splinter reality. We know that the two realities interact for one fascinating reason in the WandaVision trailer. Two, actually. I take that back, two. Whoever Kathryn Hahn's character is, Agatha Harkness, Vision comes up to her at one point and like touches her, kind of wakes her out of a trance. So it's possible that Wanda can Sleeping Beauty the whole entire world while she's playing around with this splinter reality. Because when Vision sees this character, the character says, "Am I dead?" And he says, "Why would you think that?" And she said, "Because you are." So they are aware of the reality of that world where Vision is dead. And it's possible that we can transport between them, because how would Vision be in that world unless she is just the sort of in-between character that can be in both worlds at once with Scarlet Witch? But we have this scene where you see a woman getting thrown across like a field, and then it looks like she's going through some sort of portal, and then she's tossed into a different field. That woman appears to be Monica Rambeau. She is Photon in the comics, and we saw her in Captain Marvel as a little girl. So it's possible that we could actually cross the boundary between realities thanks to Wanda, that Wanda's power makes it so. I really hope they do that, and I really hope they actually retcon in Magneto. It would be amazing to know that the reason Wanda and Pietro survived the experimentation is because they had the X gene and it became activated. Furthermore, it would be awesome because that essentially says you have a crap ton of people in the world with the X gene, and activating it is how you get mutants. It would also be interesting to see if we secretly already knew about this, because there were some long ago hints that quieted down and now are coming back up, that the Illuminati will be part of the MCU 4 and 5. And that would be Tony Stark, like Reed Richards, Professor X, Doctor Strange, all in this basically council of super smart men trying to steer the world in the right direction, not trusting anyone else to do it. But it would be kind of interesting if we had that before. It would also involve having Robert Downey Jr. come back to do some like flashback sequences, which I'm sure if he was paid enough he would do. I would make this video longer, but unfortunately it is time for lunch, real lunch. I have to go get lunch, I'm starving. In terms of how excited I am for WandaVision, words cannot contain it. In other news, it seems that Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been filming for about 7 to 8 days now, and they only had 9 days of filming left, and Mama's excited, because if they dropped the WandaVision trailer, we are probably between 2 weeks and a month out of getting Falcon and the Winter Soldier final trailers, and they'll release final trailers when they're in sort of deep final edits. So, I mean, I would think if they're going to continue releasing Black Widow in November, you're getting Falcon and the Winter Soldier by December. And Merry Christmas. That would salvage 2020 for me. We can leave 2020 on the note of getting the Marvel Disney Plus series dropped. That'll be fine. We can do that. I'm happy with that. We can look into 2021 by actually getting back to a normal schedule. There is much more to say about this, and I'll probably continue it in the Captain Marvel video I'm excited to make for you, but in the meantime, go eat.